So I'd like to start by thanking you for this invite. It's really heartening to see so many people here and the launch of a very important new organization. And I'd also like to congratulate you on this initiative, because if there's one initiative which is crucial for us from India or of Indian origin, then it's this one. We have a very serious task ahead. What we see in India is fascism. Let's not make any bones about it. Some people say it's authoritarianism, some people say it's a majoritarian rule, and all that is true. But we have to call things by their correct name. And what we have in India is fascism, just like Hitler's fascism. The Modi regime is, at its heart, is the RSS. And the RSS was modeled on Mussolini's black shirts and inspired by the Nazis. And the leader of the RSS, the supreme leader, as he was known as, Golwalkar, in fact said that what happened to Jews in Germany is a good blueprint for what should be done to Muslims in India. So let's be clear that we're up against a very vicious enemy. And what we see in Gujarat is a good lesson. And perhaps it's good to talk just briefly about Gujarat, although I know Imran has spoken very powerfully about it. And what I want to say about Gujarat is that it was a model which was repeated over and over again against Christians in Orissa in 2007, against Muslims again in Muzaffarnagar, and then of course the Delhi riots which we heard about. And what's unique about each of these cases, is that they were carried out with enormous planning, with clinical precision, so that, in fact, in Gujarat, not only did they target Muslim shops and leave out the Hindu-owned shops, but they even targeted shops which had Muslim shareholders. So they had done their work beforehand. It was all planned. In fact, people talk about what happened in Godhra. Nobody really knows what happened there, even now. Because it was interesting, there was a big meeting of the VHP that day in Ahmedabad. They were all present. So the planning could go very well. Now, Gujarat happened shortly after 9/11. And that's important for us to think about in this country as well. As we know, those of us who have lived here for many years, like myself, Islamophobia wasn't born after 9/11. It was there long before. But 9/11 made it much, much worse. And this scale of Islamophobia spread across the world, including India, and it was used. Muslims were known as terrorists. The whole tag of Muslims as jihadis, as terrorists, and so on. Even the reconstruction of the word jihad, jihad doesn't mean terrorism, It's a completely different meaning. So, as for me, I've been an activist here for many, many years, as I was so flatteringly introduced. And one of my main issues, the things I've worked on, has been racism. And we've seen how, after 9/11 particularly, racism was reconfigured to include Islamophobia. The old racism didn't go away, but it was added to. And I think we have, when we talk about mobilizing about India, We must also think about where we live and the scale of Islamophobia in this country. We know of the case of Shamima Begum, the way in which she was recruited by Canadian intelligence. We know about the case of the Manchester bombings, where the man who carried them out had actually been recruited by MI5 to go and fight in Libya against Gaddafi. And when he came back, that is what he did in Manchester. So these are the things which go on in the British state. It makes us realize that we cannot really trust the British state. We've got to think about programs like PREVENT, which are about preventing terrorism. And the way they do that is something which we are also familiar with. Small children of 5-6-year-old who draw pictures of cucumbers being taken away, hauled away as radicalized, because the cucumber is supposed to be a bomb. I mean, you could laugh about it, but this is the reality people live with. And if PREVENT is doing those things, should we be taking money from PREVENT? Sadly, many Muslim groups do take money from PREVENT. Many Muslim groups do work in a way which is perhaps unnecessary with the police. I know of Muslim groups who sent a letter to Rishi Sunak in the most sort of showing obeisance to him almost. And I wondered why. This is a man who has said that terrorism in this country should be focused on Islamic terrorism, when everybody knows that the type of terrorism which is increasing here is white fascism. So these are just a few points about Britain. Now I'd like to just say a few things about this new organization, which I have such high hopes for. And one of the things which I'd like to say, and I hope that, I mean it as an ally in the most positive way, so I hope you take it in that sense. I was a little surprised that of the two women speaking today, neither was a Muslim. And I wondered why. Because to be honest, for me, as an activist or a woman in the context of India, the most inspiring work has been done by women. From Shaheen Bagh to every single case, Afrin Fatima fighting the bulldozers, to Zakia Jafri, who fought, I don't know if you know all of these names. Do you? Do most people know what they did? And then there was also that poor 19-year-old girl, Ishrat Jahan, whose mother has still been fighting after 20 years for some sort of justice. And now, most recently, we have Bilkis Banu. Bilkis Banu's rapists have been allowed to walk free. Why? Because they are sanskari people, meaning cultured people. In other words, they're upper caste. Because let's make no mistake, the fascism that we see is Brahminical fascism. It's against Muslims, it's against Christians, and it's very much against Dalits, and it's against women. And increasingly, it's also against the left. I've heard remarks from some Muslim organizations who feel that they should not ally with the left. Well, I'm of the left. I make no apologies to say that. But I do feel also it's a time for alliances. When you fight fascism, you have to fight across a broad spectrum. You have to take everybody with you who's willing to come. And I think the next thing which they're already saying is, the Muslims, we've got them under our thumb. the next people are going to be the Christians and at the left. And I've seen the left being targeted. So, having said all of this, I'd like to also point out that fascism has always been defeated. And Modi will go. Not only will he go, the BJP will go. And we are at a very important moment for that. Because, you know, yesterday we were speaking on Zoom to some young students in India who wanted to watch the BBC film about Modi. And of course it's been banned. It's not allowed, you're not allowed to see it. And these students who have tried to watch it in their universities, the power was switched off for 4 hours. They tried to watch it on their computers and then they were beaten up by the thugs of the ABVP, which is the student wing of the BJP. So some of these young people were saying, you know, we never knew the details of Gujarat. But now we're seeing this. We're seeing it graphically on screen. And this was interesting. Because what's happened is, because they banned the film, because they blocked it, it's caused a lot of interest. And so Modi is down because of that at the moment. The other thing which is positive is that Modi's bankroller is in a lot of trouble. And I'm talking about Adani. So with Adani in a lot of trouble, and the BBC film doing what it can, although, you know, we've never been that pro-BBC, but, you know, this was a good film and it certainly did the business. So these two things have brought us to a very important moment in history. And so I'm really, really glad that you're here to take advantage of this moment by launching this great organization. So thank you very much.